fun is this? Gee whiz, to be with Latinos in San Diego at Lowe's? What better? Anyway, thank you so much for coming out and to be with me for a couple of reasons. One is it gave me a great chance to come back home. I hadn't been home in a while, and Virginia is different. So thank you so much. Anyway, thank you, Pauline. Thank you so much for that and for your incredible leadership. Thank you so much. A great Latina. Give her a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. And to Alex Padilla, our chairman, great leader in all ways in education, in public office, and a great family man. Is Alex in the room? No? Well, give him my best anyway. Give him my best. And I have a special fondness for Arturo. You know, it was quite some time, I won't say exactly how many years ago, that I found myself in the backyard of this wonderful American named Dionisio Morales. And Dionisio founded another great Hispanic organization called MAOF, the Mexican American Opportunity Foundation. But the point is that he invited us all to his backyard, and he had this beautiful avocado tree, and under this avocado tree was Edward Roybal and Bobby Garcia and all these great young Latino members of Congress, and they were founding NALEO. I have to tell you, I didn't have my checkbook that day, and so when we all went in to write our checks to found NALEO, I nudged on my husband and said, could you write the check for me? So to this day, my husband is considered a founder of NALEO. Anyway, I'm delighted to be here. It's been an incredible journey, and I have to tell you that everybody at Cabinet has just been wonderful. I understand that you had my Cabinet colleague, Tom Perez, here earlier. Is he special? And better news that now I'm second, and for the first time in our country's history, we're about to have 3 Latinos with Julian Castro joining Cabinet. That's incredible. We're very excited about that. I just wanted to take a moment because when you're in San Diego, one of the things I think of is our veterans. And when you think of a veteran, an image comes to mind. But I want to tell you about what I've just seen. I just left New York, where we launched an SBA program called VWISE, and it stands for Veteran Women Inspiring in the Spirit of Entrepreneurship. And so normally when we think of our veterans, we don't always think of our women, and I just want to make a special point about that to salute the veteran women of America. Any of you here in the room? Thank you. Thank you. We have a very special program at the SBA. We call it Boots to Business. And at Boots to Business, what we do is we take our armed forces, and now that they're coming home, we talk to them about entrepreneurship, and we get them ready for that. And so it's a wonderful program. But what we realized, what I saw was that there are already so many of our armed forces who have been home and have not yet found their place, found their station. And so we're launching a new program, I'm pleased to say, that is Boots to Business Reboot. And we just launched that last week to make certain that all of you who are already at home and struggling to find a place, that the SBA can help you start your business. So anyway, a lot of good stuff taking place. And speaking of inclusiveness, you know that I very much think about inclusiveness every day. Look at me, I'm Latina, right? So we have another special program that we have for women. And because we're about access to capital and also contracting, we have a program that we call Challenge Her. And the Challenger event is, how do we get more women to get business from the largest procurer in the world, the US government? Some people have an uncle that opens doors for them, and now you all have Uncle Sam. The SBA opens doors. And out of all of that procurement, 23% is directed by the SBA to small businesses. So if you haven't yet thought of diversifying your portfolio from the typical business that you're doing now, and you haven't yet engaged with work with the federal government, I hope you'll also come to SBA and attend, if you're a woman, to attend one of our events, the Challenge Her event, which helps more women get more contracts from the federal government. And we're also maximizing that, and now we're inviting corporations to team up with us and do that same work. We call that the American Supplier Initiative, and more corporations have signed up. We're up to 26 corporations that have said, I want to do what you're doing at the federal government. So I want to thank all of the corporations, some of you in the room here today, who are helping us do that work to make certain that more Latinos get more business from government as well as the private sector. It's a really exciting time to be Hispanic today, to be in America today, and to be the leader of the Small Business Administration. You see, today, 2 out of 3 net new jobs are being started by the small business community. Small businesses employ 1 in 2 of the private sector workforce. It's incredible what's taking place, and it's all because Latinos are at the thrust of that leadership. You must know that Latinos file for patents, I should say immigrants file for patents at 3 times the national average. We're starting businesses at 30% higher than the average American rate. We are employing 1 in 10 Americans. That's what Latinos are doing today. And so imagine that all of that is taking place through entrepreneurship. Every company starts small. And when I think of what the SBA has been doing already, it's quite remarkable. We've heard about Under Armour. I don't know how many of you buy Under Armour sportswear. Under Armour started with the small business loan. I don't know how many of you buy Ben & Jerry's ice cream. They started with the small business loan. I don't know how many of you have ever used FedEx. They started with the small business loan. And I could go on and on. I've been traveling the country and meeting company after company that started small with the small business loan. And so I hope that you'll go to SBA.gov to learn more about what we can do for you. Recently, I had an opportunity to represent the President of the United States at El Salvador. I led the U.S. delegation to install the new President of El Salvador. And it was quite remarkable to meet with other heads of state, to talk to the President of Costa Rica, who said that all of his market expansion, all of his economic activity is being driven by small businesses, to talk to Ecuador, to talk to Peru, Colombia. All of them were saying that their growth, their economic activity is being driven by small businesses. In fact, Taiwan said that 90% of their growth is coming from small business. So congratulations to all of us, because we know that it's the Hispanic power that drives this economy, and then in turn, when we're out trading internationally, we're driving other countries' economy. And so just imagine, people everywhere I go, people are talking about the BRIC countries and the power, and corporations across the country are saying that they want to go out and get into the BRIC country strategy, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. But you know, our numbers, if you took our numbers, we equal the BRIC country numbers. And so it's important to remember that as for those of us who are corporate executives, to say, yes, we've got to make certain that we are pioneering in new emerging international markets. That's important, but not at the expense of skipping over the important critical U.S. market that we have here today. So I know that you'll be disciples of change in your companies or in your cities, in your counties, in your states, to make certain that we're spurring economic activity here domestically at home as well. My story was just told in my introduction, and I have to tell you that indeed it's been a really interesting journey. I've been very, very blessed. And so I see a few Latinas in the house, because when I got here, I'm from Mexico, Guadalajara, Jalisco. I was born in Guadalajara, Jalisco. Thank you. When I got here, I would write to my grandmother, and I said, Abuelita, I'm the milk monitor at school now. And she said, Mija, it's not the titles that you have. It's what you do with the titles that you have. And I said, milk monitor? What can I do? But anyway, I've thought about that long and hard. So when I became an executive officer at Westinghouse Electric Company, I thought about the resources that were at my disposal. And I thought, what could I do with that? I mean, I was enjoying, some level of prosperity, more prosperity than my mother had ever imagined. And so I helped to start organizing other Latinas. And many of you know that, we took a few women up to Sacramento, and then more and more. And then eventually we formalized that activity. We called it Latina Action Day, and then we founded this wonderful organization. And they were very generous and asked me to be the founding president of an organization called HOPE, Hispanas Organized for Political Equality. Helen, thank you so much for doing that work. Thank you for leading that work. We must all make sure that we're using the titles in a way that helps advance our community. And then because of all of your generosity and what you did to help us do that work, it was noted by the governor, the newly elected governor of California. And so he asked me then, he says, if you believe in political power, then lead the way and become the first Latina to serve on California's cabinet. And so I was asked to be California's Secretary of Business, Transportation, and Housing. And there too, as I was trying to think of how I could help small businesses, knowing that Latinos are more likely to start a business than to move up the corporate ranks in corporate America, I thought, if I do the counterintuitive, and I take the bridge, for example, the east span of the Oakland Bay Bridge that I was about to embark in those days, and I debundle that work, I take that $3 billion project, and instead of putting it out as one, if I debundle it and make certain that more and more people can access it, because the smaller the businesses, the more likely they are to be American and local businesses. And so as I did that work, first, our community said, you know what? We don't hear about the jobs. How do we hear about those jobs? We don't know. So I thought, we've got to get the word out about the importance of contracting with government. And then once we introduced them to it, they would say, but in order for me to bid and to bond, you know, to get the bid bond and to do the bidding and the performance of the work, you know, I need a surety bond. So then I thought, now I've got to go find a way to make sure that I'm bonding all these small businesses. So I thought about counseling, contracting, and making certain that they were bonded. And then they said, now that I've got all of that, I need to make certain that I can get the capital to hire up the staff and to make sure that I can do that work. Well, now I had a challenge of contracting. And so all of these challenges were prevalent, and we were just struggling to make certain that we were debundling and executing well and getting those jobs filled. So when I left office, I thought of all the things that I could do, one of the most important things that I could do is what every Latina thinks to do, and that is start her own bank. And so, yes, of course, that's the way we think. And so I started a bank in Los Angeles to make certain that we could provide the capital to these businesses so that they could go off and do this important work. And you all supported me in that, and I want to thank you so much for that work. But the point is that when the president called and said, you know, you ran a large, complicated organization, and you did counseling, contracting, and then with the bank you did capital, and there's one place in America where you can bring all those opportunities together in one place, and that's the SBA. And so that's what we're doing at the SBA today. We call it the 3 C's and a D. We do counseling through a vast network across the country. We do contracting, as I mentioned, with the federal government and now with the private sector, and we provide access to capital. And so through all of the financial institutions, and some of which are here today, and so I want to salute you for what you're doing. But there's always refinements. Again, traveling across the country, which I've done in the last 60 days that I've been on board, what you told me is your paperwork is so exhaustive. It's a lot of paperwork. And the offices told me the same thing. Our SBA offices told me the same thing. You know, we're still working off of faxes. And so what I did is I launched 3 recent initiatives at the SBA. The first initiative was about how do we make the SBA more modern? How is it that my son, very unlike my brother-in-law, when he started his law firm, are any lawyers in the room? We have any lawyers? A few, okay. Oh, Kathy's here. Oh my goodness. Yes, my undersecretary, Kathy Sandoval, who's now a commissioner on the CPUC. So nice to see you here, Kathy. Thank you. And so, anyway, my brother-in-law, when he started his law firm, he said, you know, I've got to have the annotated code books. I need to have legal stenographers. I need a big office. My son said, on my smartphone, I use LexisNexis, and I can just dictate something, and somebody somewhere else is transcribing it into the courtroom. It's a new day. We need to make certain that our SBA and our systems are as smart and as modern as is society. You all now can swipe a check and deposit it through your phone. Why is the SBA still using faxes? And so I've challenged our SBA to modernize itself, and we've done that indeed through not only our systems, the way we communicate, We're now developing new technology, and by early next year, I hope that you'll see that where our systems are now much more modernized. But the way we underwrite, some of the underwriting criteria wasn't really fair, and it didn't help us get small dollar loans out. Small dollar loans are critical because it's where we start. It's how we get started. I mean, how many of us right now could handle a $6 million loan? But if somebody gave us $50,000 or $100,000, we could deploy that, we could use that effectively, spur innovation, and create something very special for our community. So we have to start with the smaller dollar loans. And banks like mine were a little reluctant because they're just as much paperwork, monitoring, servicing, a small dollar loan as it is a large dollar loan. So I've now put in new systems, predictive scoring systems that allow the financial institutions, and I know this sounds like a little arcane, but trust me, this is going to deploy much more into the smaller dollar loans, the technology that we've just put in place that will help you get more loans. And another feature that we just put in place, which is really important to me as an entrepreneur, I don't know how many of you have started a business in this room, but sometimes you make personal sacrifices to start a business, and you want to make sure that you pay your rent, and you want to make certain that you are covering your payroll. And so oftentimes at great personal sacrifice. So your personal FICO might be affected in order to preserve your business FICO. What we said is, why is SBA turning down people who have a low personal, but they have a high business score? Because to me, that speaks to character, and I think we should respect that you're trying to do what you can to make your payroll. So we've now introduced a new total score, which takes into consideration both and effectively allows more people to get through the system. We have to think about ways in which that we can get more people access to capital to continue the growth. We've now recovered all of the jobs that we lost pre-recession. We've restored the pre-recession job rate, but we need to do more, and this is one way in which we're going to do it. So we're modernizing the SBA. The second thing is, while we're modernizing it, are we being inclusive? Do we include our Asian Americans, our Native Americans, our African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and women? Are we making certain that we are circumspect in including everybody along the way? So I've met with the bankers, and I've been talking to them to make sure that they have an inclusive view and not a biased view about the way they approach their loans. And third, I think the SBA and we have a duty to be market makers. Again, with the technology today, you can enter markets, you can do business with somebody in Costa Rica, with somebody in Taiwan. So how can we open those doors for you? And so we're advocating through Congress ways in which the SBA can develop more resources to make sure that we can get you business, not just the government here and the private sector, but abroad, so that you can eke out opportunity from 95% of the world's consumers, which are outside of this country. In fact, this afternoon, I'm going to be meeting again with the ambassador from Mexico to the U.S. to continue to explore opportunities between Mexico and the U.S. Do you know, people talk about trade, and they say that China is critical. No question, China is a critical trade partner, absolutely. But when we speak of trade, remember, it's two things, imports and exports. And when we talk about trade with China, what we're talking about mostly is imports. When we talk about Mexico, it's mostly exports. We're creating jobs in America. And even when we import from Mexico, 40% of that is value add, something that Americans contributed 40% to that product. When we import from China, 1% is value add from Americans. So I hope that you'll consider the qualitative aspects of trade when we're talking about trade. Anyway, I just want to share with you that it's a really exciting time to be entrepreneurs. You all know my story. You all know now what I'm doing at the SBA. I hope that you'll continue to stay in touch. I hope this is not just a one-day event, because we've got to do this together. I can't do it. The only reason I'm here is because I know I stand on your shoulders. And so each of you, whether you're an elected official at the local level, at the county, at the state, I hope that you'll continue to spur entrepreneurship. I hope that you'll do the same three things. I hope that you'll look at your systems to see, number one, follow the money. Let me just say that again. Follow the money. Do you know at the state level, in your state, where your public employee retirement funds are? Are they placed in Latino-owned banks? Are they placed in minority-owned banks? Are they placed in domestic banks? You should ask those questions. Follow the money, because this is a capitalistic society. I hope that you'll do the second thing, and that is to make certain that you're thinking about the regulations. Can we streamline? One of the regs that I just changed, because so many of our clients were coming in saying that they couldn't get permitting at cities, that it was taking so long. We had a rule that if you submitted a loan application more than 9 months ago, we had to start all over because we said it's a dated application. But we learned that so many small businesses are having a difficulty getting their permitting, and so we just took that rule out. We said if it takes them 10 months, 11 months, why should we care when they started this application if it's still for the same project? And so we just took that rule out. But you can partner with us, you can work with us to make certain that you take out those cumbersome regulations, to make certain that we're easing the way for small business. And third, again, how do we make certain that we're making markets for small businesses? I hope that you use your political power and your economic power, that you're voting with your vote, and you're also voting with your dollar, with your voice, that when small businesses or large businesses come to you to ask you for support of your city vote or your county vote or your state, wherever, whatever level you're at, that you're also asking that company, where are they investing? Are they buying through the supply chain that includes Latino entrepreneurs? So we have to use both our votes, our economic and our political, and bring them together for the prosperity of our community. Let me just close with this, because we all know, we've watched, we read newspapers, and we know that social mobility is stagnant in so many countries, and it's a challenge. It was sad to me, quite frankly, to see what was going on in El Salvador and how many families were struggling and couldn't find upward mobility. But America is such a special place, and while JFK said it right, he said we don't all have equal talent, but in America we should all be given an equal opportunity to develop our talent. It's about opportunity for social mobility, that I could be born in Guadalajara and that I could have done what I was able to do with my business, and now to sit across the table from the president at the president's cabinet and share protein bars. It's quite an extraordinary dream. That's about social mobility, and only America has this quality. My grandmother used to tell me something else when I'd write to her, and she would say, if you play by the rules, someday, mija, someday, I know that although we've been a family of migrant workers, one day you may have the possibility to actually work in an office and maybe even be a secretary. And so indeed her good prayers were heard, and because of America's social mobility, I do hold office, and I am a cabinet secretary. Thank you. Thank you. But it's now up to us, and so I say, let's come together, let's partner up, and let's continue to spur this very special thing that only America harvests with such bounty, and that is economic opportunity, social mobility, that somebody can go from one class and move up. Go to India, go to other countries, and you'll see how special this privilege is, how special this is. But if we don't engage in public democracy, if we don't engage in capitalism, then we could end up in the same place. We can't take these freedoms for granted. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let me just say that together we can do anything. And I look forward to accomplishing great things with you. I know you'll have my back, and know that I have yours. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.